A common maintenance item in your house is your exterior doors and the weather stripping around them. You want to make sure you have a flexible, secure seal, which doesn't make your door too hard to close, but it keeps all the cold or hot air out and also all the bugs out. So I'll show you how to replace one of the most common door seals, but I'll also go through many different types just in case you do not have the same type of bottom seal. But before we jump into anything, there are two things that I want you to check that make sure we're set up for success in changing our seal. So first, we need to check our threshold. One, you need to make sure that your threshold is secure. If your exterior door gets a lot of rain, there is a good chance that the rain has eaten away at the subfloor below your threshold. So every time you step on it, it's really flexible, it's loose, you can tell the subfloor is rotting away underneath. That is a little bigger project, and you want to make sure you have a secure threshold because that is what the seal is actually going to press against. But if your threshold is secure, you also need to check the adjustment. Most thresholds have 4 Phillips head screws that you can turn clockwise to tighten them down to lower the threshold, or counterclockwise to raise the threshold up. And that can adjust the contact to that bottom door seal. So don't forget you have adjustment there that you can make, and that actually might fix your problem right away, or at least give you the adjustment to make sure you have a solid seal after replacing it. Then let's go ahead and go through and tighten up all the door hinge screws. This is very common for these to loosen up over time. Now, if you have those small 1-inch screws and they're just turning in the hole because it's stripped out, don't forget, you can get 1.5 or 2-inch screws. You can look down in the description and there's a little package you can get off Amazon. That can be a direct replacement for a 1-inch stripped out screw. You can sink in an 1.5 or 2-inch screw, and then that's gonna secure up your hinges. So now with your door hinges tight and your threshold secure and adjusted correctly, let's go over the different types of bottom seals. Now I want to show you the bottom seal I'm dealing with, so I'm going to remove the exterior door. It's the easiest way to swap these out and actually do the maintenance. Just by removing the pins, then I can grab onto the door, flip it sideways, and lean it against the door jamb. Now you get a good view of the bottom, and I'll just pull that seal off and the splines out of the kerf cut. What you'll notice is often you'll have either nails or staple in those ends that you'll have to pry out, and I'd also remove those from the door. This is a new seal here. Pretty much the same design as my old one, just with a little different combination of wipers compared to the bubbles. So there's a few more sets of the wipers compared to this bubble that's been deformed over time. So it'll work the same and will seal just as well. If your old seal is in good shape like this one and it was properly fit to my door, I'm just going to use this as a template for cutting my new seal. Pretty much all seals will come in 36-inch lengths. That's because most exterior doors are either 36 or 32. Mine being 32, I do need to make some adjustments. Now I want these splines to be closer to the edge, and I know I need to remove 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is do a small adjustment with some heavy-duty scissors on this end. And put those flush on this end. And then I'll go ahead and do a small snip to mark the end here. So then I will go ahead and cut clear across. There's a clean cut. Now, I don't want these splines to go all the way to the edge, so I am going to snip those in slightly, and that's going to match my other end. So for my door seal, now I have the properly sized new seal, and you can see how fast this replacement would be. You can put it in place, but you did see those staples I had before. What I'm going to do is use one small nail in each end to secure this to the door. Sometimes you don't need that, but If you want to make it maintenance free for at least a couple more years, it is good to usually secure that. You do not need to put staples or nails all the way down, putting 6 or 8 of these in the bottom. I think that is excessive. Just holding your ends should be more than enough, and sometimes just the splines themselves, if your kerf cuts are in good shape, can hold that securely for years and years. Now, install should be simple as long as your door is in good shape. So you just line it up, confirming your measurements are correct and confirming that the splines fit the cuts in the bottom of the door. Then you'll just press the splines in, working from one side to the other, making sure that the splines are fully seated into the kerf cuts. Once they are, like I said, I'm going to put a nail on the top here, making sure not to damage the seal while nailing that in. And then I'll do the same on the bottom, making sure it's secure. And there's a close-up look, seeing that secured end. Now, once the seal is good to go, I'm just going to reverse the removal of the door. So I'll just line up those hinges. I line up the bottom one first, and then I put the middle pin in to hold it, get all the pins in, and then hammer the pins down. So my installation is pretty much completed, and my door is back and with a good seal. But let's look at your other options. So what happens if you do not have a kerf cut in the bottom of your door, or it's in bad shape? So they do make these channels, which are actually friction fit, and they have the wipers on the bottom. So it's still gonna seal from the bottom of the door to your threshold, but it's supposed to be just a friction fit where you slide it on your door and then that holds it in place. Honestly, I am not a huge fan of that. If I were gonna use one of these, I would set the vertical adjustment to make sure it contacts the threshold appropriately. Then I would try to sink a few holes, drilling a small pilot hole, probably in 4 different locations, and then securing those with screws. I just would not trust the friction fit for years and years, but that might be a good temporary solution for you if you just need to stop the cold air or stop the bugs for the time being while you figure out a permanent solution. Then you might see a few other options which are more along the lines of sweeps. The 2 main types that you're going to find is something like this brush here, or just a flexible solid piece. And what this does is it fits on the inside of your door, and you mount this to your door, and then that would push against your threshold, closing that gap. Now, if you mount this to your door and there is a gap, it is not pushing against the threshold or pushing against the floor or pushing against the trim piece, you are still going to have an issue. Mounting of sweeps is usually 2 different versions. There's some that come with an adhesive 3M strip that you can just stick that to the inside of your door. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this, especially in colder temps. I think that can become brittle and just over time inherently would fall off. And then they have mounting screws. So usually there will be pre-built slots that give you a little adjustment in the vertical direction, and you need to drill those pilot holes in your door to mount them with the included screws in the kits. Now, cutting these or adjusting these, usually I take the sweep out itself, I measure, and then I use a hacksaw and cut. One thing to note, if there is no mounting holes, like the one with the 3M strip, you can just take the length that you need to remove, maybe that's 4 inches, off of one side, no problem. Then you can cut your wiper and reinstall it, and then you can mount it to the door. If it has mounting holes, I would take the amount that you want to cut off and I'd remove half from each end, so you have solid mounting holes near the end of the door sweep. So those are other options. Obviously, I prefer the first type of seal, but you do need the kerf cuts in the bottom of your door. Now, this is very common, so hopefully that works for you. But let me know in the comments. Let me know if you guys have any questions And now that your bottom seal is in good shape, why don't you check out the video right here, and that'll make sure the weather strippings on the side and top of your door are also sealing correctly. Thanks for joining us on this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.